Hey guys, this is Scott, Vegas Horse Pools. I'm here with my buddy Gary. Hey Gary, what did you think of this last weekend of college football?
Another fantastic week. Didn't have quite the upsets that we have been, but for the most part, a fun weekend. You had a massive SEC game. Keeping up with the Big Ten as well. Penn State, not taking care of business even with the backup quarterback at Wisconsin. Felt pretty good last week. I did all right myself personally, but yeah, it was a good week of college football.
Yeah, this is why modelers are going to do better than top down guys because your model, I believe, was 9-0 last week, right?
The model wasn't 9-0, but I was 9-0, right?
Nine
So it
zero.
took all the different tools in the arsenal to be able to get to 9-0 on the Bet US College Football Show, which we do every Tuesday and Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern.
Great
But
show.
uh,
Great show.
but yeah, it was a good week last week. Everything just kind of hit right in order. Had several weeknight games, had several in the morning, a couple in the afternoon, and then had one, two in the evening with Penn State, and then of course Colorado. But yeah, it just had the ball bounce my way a few times. That certainly helped out. But the model didn't like some of the picks that I went with. It but at the same time, I mean, you know me, I've got four different models that I'm running at one time, whether it's a power ratings or just stats or anything else that I'm tossing in where I'm looking at schedule spots, etc. So you gotta throw all of it in there to get your handicapping in.
That's exactly right. It's not just one method. And of course, we talked last week about the Nebraska Ohio State game. We both said Nebraska would stay with inside the numbers. They probably should have won that ball
They
game.
should have won the game. Rayola
Uh,
had multiple guys open that he missed, but that's okay. I mean, it's a freshman quarterback. The officiating was putrid in that game. Just all over the field, it was bad. So I don't know. I don't know what's been going on with officiating, but it's not just in the SEC. It's not just in the Big Ten. It's across the board. It feels like it gets worse every week. Does it feel like that to you?
Only when Nebraska loses. That's the only times I see that same problem. But you know what? We don't want to bury the lead here. I did get a big email. I do want to announce this before we get started. I just got a big email from EA Sports. They have just released a college football update. What
Ah,
that means to us is this: I'm going to run the normal games this week with the new update, but I think what we should do next week is for you to release the playoffs again. I'd like to run another playoff simulation. So after this week games are completed, maybe you can announce the playoffs next Monday, and I'll be playing those as well as the normal four games. But let's not bury the lead. Nebraska decided they're going to try to become bowl eligible. They're going to take on UCLA. Let me pull up and see what Spank Odds says. Spank Odds has the game, Nebraska, of course, at home, and that is important, I believe, in this game. Nebraska just a little bit over a touchdown favorite. Of course, I believe this is going to be a very, very easy win for Nebraska until you look at that UCLA schedule. They've got a terrible record, but God, they've played some monster teams.
yes,
What
they
is,
have.
what is
Yes,
your
they have.
what does your model say on this one? I got a feeling you're going to like UCLA a little bit here.
You would be incorrect. I have
Really
Nebraska
good.
by 13 and a half. I have in my last four, I've got Nebraska by 12.2. Now, as far as power rating goes, power rating has Nebraska almost by 10 even. It's like 9.96. But then you toss on home field, and yeah, same thing. It really likes Nebraska in this matchup. Now, when you start to look at the fact that UCLA is coming off of a bye and Nebraska, I mean, has been kind of through a gauntlet here. They had their bye, and then they, of course, went to Indiana, went to Ohio State. They finally get to come home, but they have a bye next week. You got to hope that the Cornhuskers don't, kind of sleep on this one, think that they can just handle UCLA because they've got a terrible record. UCLA had a pretty good win against Rutgers, and it was in a
Mhm.
terrible schedule spot for them because they had just been through all kinds of stuff at that point. UCLA had gone through, let's see, Oregon at Penn State and Minnesota. Well, Indiana at LSU, Oregon at Penn State, Minnesota, and then they went to Rutgers to play a 9 a.m. body clock game for them, and won the game by scoring 47 points on the road against Greg Schiano's defense. Now, don't get me wrong, Rutgers is really, really beat up right now. Um, but man, it seemed like that offense got clicking. Ethan Garbers looked a lot better. But this UCLA defense, I mean, Nebraska should certainly be able to put up some points here. And on the other side, we trust Nebraska's defense, right? I mean, they should be able to. The Cornhuskers are not dealing with a bunch of injuries, et cetera, right now. They're kind of dinged up from having to go through that gauntlet. But you look at what UCLA does, number 132 in predicted points added per rush on offense. Nebraska's number 31 in that metric on defense. As far as throwing the ball, which is what UCLA has been doing, they throw it 62% of the time. That's number 7 in the country in passing rate. They're number 78 in PPA per pass, and Nebraska's defense is number 49 there. So you just got to hope that the Cornhuskers are awake and that they take this game seriously, and they should be bowl eligible by Saturday evening, I would imagine.
God, I would love to hear that. That makes me feel really good. Look at that UCLA schedule. I don't know if anybody's faced a tougher row than UCLA.
Oh, it's difficult. It is very, very difficult. Opening up with Hawaii in week 1, and then you immediately get a bye. Everybody else has their byes spaced out, pretty evenly throughout the season. I mean, theirs was just rough. Very, very rough.
Yeah, and the schedule was really tough. But I don't say this very often, but the most important game this weekend is up next. None other than Ohio State, Penn State. Let's take a look at Spank Odds. Spank Odds says 4.5 Ohio State on the road. Does that surprise your model? It surprises me a little bit.
Not really. Full season stats, I've got Ohio State minus 3.94. So it's not too far off. But at the same time, it does surprise me that it's gone from 3.5 up to 4.5. I guess people just, Ohio State sleptwalked through, Nebraska. They weren't ready for that one because they were looking ahead. Look, based on the last 4 weeks model, Penn State would be favored by 2 here. I kind of like Penn State in this spot, but Ohio State is number 1 in predicted points added margin. They are number 3 on offense, number 9 on defense. And Penn State is number 9 in PPA margin. They are number 8 on offense and number 14 on defense. So the Penn State numbers are not quite as good. Both of these teams don't run a lot of plays. They're number 80. Penn State's number 80 in plays per game on offense, and Ohio State is number 91, but they are incredibly efficient. When you start looking at net points per drive, points per play margin, all that kind of stuff, Ohio State does have better numbers. But if you also look at, strength of schedule and whatnot, both of these teams outside of Ohio State playing Oregon, I mean, neither of these teams has really played a difficult schedule, right? Ohio State, their current strength of schedule is number 39. Penn State is number 64, but Ohio State has that game against Oregon. Penn State doesn't have anything close to that other than going to Wisconsin, but we don't really have Wisconsin power rated all that high. I kind of lean Penn State on this. Like my number says 3.94 in favor of Ohio State. So obviously with the 4.5, I would lean the other way, but Ohio State is dealing with some injuries. And the big thing is they might be down to their 3rd left tackle right now. And I don't know how you defend against Penn State if you can't pass block, right? Ohio State is number 8 in havoc rate allowed, and Penn State's defense is number 4. So I'm real curious about this, about what we're going to get out of here. I think it's going to be a hell of a ball game.
Me too. I cannot wait to see the game. And I got to tell you, I'm leading Penn State here too. I don't see Penn State losing this ball game. I think they're going to win it straight up. But I think it's going to be a whale of a game.
This is the one that James Franklin always loses, right? Like he loses to Michigan and he loses to Ohio State. It's every year. I think he's only got 1 win in his entire career at Penn State against Ohio State. But they do have this one at home. It kind of sucks that it's at 11 a.m. Local or local time, I guess, for them. It's just, I feel like Penn State has got it this year. We'll see what's going on with Drew Aller. I think that might be another part of this as to why the line is moving. Because if Drew Aller doesn't play, the backup looked good, but obviously they changed up that offense. I think that Andy Kotelnicki kind of gets to do more stuff with a mobile quarterback. We'll see if Ohio State's ready for that, but I'm curious what the quarterback situation is going to look like for the Nittany Lions.
Yeah, it should be, like I say, a really, really good game. That's definitely the one I'm going to watch on Saturday. And then Nebraska follows that game, I believe, right after.
Yeah, sure does.
So the third game on our list is a big letdown from the Penn State game. But again, it's probably the best team in the country. Oregon taking on Michigan. Michigan's kind of having a down year. I kind of expect Oregon to do whatever they want in this ball game. And after they do whatever they want, they pretty much have a clear sailing to the playoffs and probably number one ranking in the playoffs on top of that. Looks like we've got a minus 14.5 on Spank odds at Circa here in Las Vegas. But some of the other big books that I like to follow have already moved it up to minus 16. What does your model think about this one?
I have Oregon minus 15.93.
Okay.
So I'm right on the number. My spread based on the last 4 weeks of stats, I've got Oregon by 22.69. Michigan did look a lot better last week against Michigan State. Now, granted, that's Michigan State. That's not Oregon. I'm still worried about this Michigan offense. Davis Warren, they brought him back in. He's the third quarterback that's played this year. He looked a lot better against Michigan State's defense. Are they going to be able to run on Oregon? I mean, I think that they might be able to. If you look at Oregon's defense, they're number 95 in predicted points added allowed per rush. They're number 76 in rushing explosiveness allowed, number 74 in offensive line yards allowed. That certainly would speak well for Michigan being able to, to pound the rock on the ground. But on the other side, I don't think that Michigan's defense can hold up against the weapons that Oregon's got. I think I would lean Oregon, but I don't feel great about it. When you look at the schedule that's left for Oregon, at Michigan this week, then they got Maryland, at Wisconsin, a bye week, and then they get Washington in the last week of the season. Michigan, they just came off of a big rivalry game that they had to have to be able to get to a bowl game, which you wouldn't think that's a big deal, but you don't want to be the team that won a national title and then missed a bowl game the next year. That never sits well. But yeah, Michigan had Ohio State last week, at Illinois the week before, and they've got at Indiana next week. So this is just a gauntlet for the Wolverines. I would lean Oregon. Don't feel great about it because it's at the Big House, and we know that Oregon can be run on. I just don't know how much, and I don't know if this Michigan offense can keep up, depending on what the game state is. Might be a fun one to live bet on Saturday.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true. We got one more game here, Gary. Let's talk about Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh taking on SMU. And I think you're really excited about this game, right?
I love this. I love this game so much. SMU won at Duke last week with 6 turnovers. They gave away the ball 6 times, didn't get a turnover, and won the game because Duke missed a couple of field goals, and it was just haywire, absolute haywire. This is a fun game. My number has got SMU by 2.5. I like this Pitt team. SMU has been waiting for a game of substance at home. So I think that SMU is going to be fired up for this. I wonder about Pitt, right? I really thought that this number was going to be a lot tighter when the spread came out yesterday. But, we got the number 13 and number 17 PPA margin teams. That's predicted points added margin teams. Both of them are really good. Both of them are great at offensive success rate. Both are great on defensive success rate. SMU is slightly better in both, but this is just a fun matchup with 2 really evenly matched teams. I would lean Pitt here, but it feels like Pitt has kind of been winning games with like smoke and mirrors here. SMU last week was certainly that because there's no way you should win a game when you're -6 in turnover margin. But, at SMU at home, they're going to be fired up for this. I cannot believe that this game is on the ACC network. Like, why on earth is this not on a bigger platform?
Yeah.
But either way, I like the over. I like the dog quite a bit. I think this is going to be a super tight game. Neither team has played a really difficult strength of schedule. Number 77 for SMU, number 101 for Pitt. But this Pitt offense, Narduzzi's got the defense clicking right now, too, to go along with that offense with Eli Holstein. And what Kevin Jennings has done to kind of revitalize that offense because Preston Stone, the other quarterback, just could not get it going at the beginning of the season. I love it. I love the coaching matchup. It's two very, very different types of guys. Rhett Lashley, super offensive guy. But I love the defensive coordinator for SMU as well. Scott Simons, he came over from Liberty a few years ago. He has completely revamped that side of the ball for them. This is a huge, huge game as far as ACC standings is concerned. I'm a fan. I lean the dog, certainly, but I'm excited to dive into it a little more.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the game also. It's going to be a nice triple header on Saturday. I think that's about the final game we're going to cover today. I think we'll sign off here. If you guys have any questions about Spank Odds, signups, any kind of questions at all, you can reach out to me. I'm at Spank Odds. If you want to talk to me about anything else, you can reach out to me on Twitter. I'm at Vegas Horse Pools. Gary, how do they reach you?
Easy enough, at Gary WCE on all the different socials. Look, the BetUS College Football Show, we give out really good information. We spend hours and hours and hours researching for that show. It is every Tuesday and Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern time. So do me a favor, go over there and subscribe on that YouTube channel. It's you just search for BetUS College Football Show, or you can find me on Twitter. It's at Gary WCE.
That sounds good. Gary, I appreciate all your time, and we'll do it again next week, and we'll release the playoffs, and we'll do the playoffs again next week. So it should be a really exciting weekend, and going in here to the home stretch on college football.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, thanks, guys.